Hello and welcome all of you. You're watching K-Commerce Academy with me, Kunal Singhal. Today, again, I'm available with one more Mock Viva in subject of business studies for class 12th Commerce 2021 practical examinations. Today's topic will be again on the principles of management. So without wasting much time, let's begin with that. Okay, dear. So just start with your introduction.
Okay, so my name is Vidhi Kohli. I study in Brain International School and I have chosen the topic of principles of management with a special application to Pizza Hut for my project of business studies.
On which organization you have applied these principles?
So Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut, fine. And what was your final conclusion? How many principles of management are not followed by this organization?
All the principles are followed except the two, which are partly followed in the organization, which are the principles of centralization and decentralization and the principle of stability of personnel.
Okay, fine. So let us start with the centralization, decentralization. Explain this principle.
So basically, the principle of centralization and decentralization, as advocated by Fayol, states centralization is the process in which the decision-making power is contacted in few hands, whereas in the process of decentralization, the power of decision-making is dispersed within the lower level of management as well. So in an organization, there should be a mix and there should be a parity between these two parts, centralization and decentralization.
In all sorts of organization, you would suggest to have a balance between centralization and decentralization, or some exemption is there or some assumption is there?
No, sir. According to me, there must be a balance between the two so that the subordinates must also be motivated to show their skills and their.
Let me give you an example. Suppose a small retailer is there, a sole proprietor retailer is there. So do you think that he will use the decentralization of principle of management?
No, sir. In such a small kind of organization, this principle cannot be followed.
So application of principle of centralization, decentralization also depends upon the size of organization and the nature of organization. Fine.
Yes.
Okay. Which the other principle you find was not followed by this organization?
Stability of personnel.
Stability of personnel. So just explain that principle first of all.
This principle, as advocated by Fayol, states that whenever an employee is recruited, he should be given a minimum period of time to develop his skills and prove himself at the particular field. This also reduces the minimum employee turnover and the wastefulness of the resources. Also, the employees get motivated to show their skills and they have a job security.
What things did you observe which helps you to identify that this principle, that is stability of personnel, is not followed by this organization? What did you observe?
Yes, sir, because in Pizza Hut, when I visited over there and I talked to the manager, so basically he told me that there are two categories of the employees. The first one is the part-time workers, and the second is like on the post of managers and superiors and etc. So he told me that the person, like the people who are on the contractual basis, who are the part-time workers, such as students studying for MBA or their college degrees. So whenever their contract expires, they leave the job, or when they have graduated from the university, so they leave the job in search of a better job. But if we talk about the managers and the supreme level of authority, such as the board of directors and apex level or the superintendents, they are not shifted particularly, or they do not have particular transfer, frequent transfer in their jobs. So they have a job stability.
Okay. And for the conduction of your survey, did you prepare questionnaire?
Yes, I have prepared a question.
Approximately how many questions you prepared?
14 questions.
14 questions.
I'm having the survey over here. Yes, sir.
Okay. That is every question on each principle. One question on
yes,
each.
sir. If you want, I can share the screen.
Fine. No, not required. That's not required. Okay. Do you find that principle of management and principles of science are different?
Yes, sir. Both the principles are different, because if we talk about the principle of science, they are rigid. But the principles of management are flexible and they can be molded by the organization as per their needs and their requirements. And the principles of management.
give an example. How can we say that principles of management are flexible?
Principles of management are flexible because they do not have a hard and fast rule. They work on cause and effect relationship. So basically, it depends on organization to organization how they implement the principles and what are their outcomes.
So according to the situation, you need to modify these
Modify them.
principles. That's why these are
Right.
called flexible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me give you one statement. You just have to tell me the principle of management. One is
Okay.
unity of command, and another one is unity of direction. Out of these two principles, what do you think? Which principle will affect the overall functioning of the organization?
Unity of direction.
Unity of direction. Okay, that is correct. And name the concept which is an exception to the scalar chain.
Gangplank.
Okay, gangplank is correct. Can you explain gangplank? What do we mean by gangplank?
Yes, sir. So basically, gangplank system is a system which states that in a case of emergency, the two people who are at the same level of authority, sharing the same level of authority, can directly communicate each other rather than involving the middle level or the top level management.
As you said that it is used in the situation of emergencies. So is it possible that is in the situation of emergencies we can use the gangplank at the different authority levels also?
Sir, if we go by the bookish text, then it says no. But according to me, yes, we can, because if there is a case of fire, then we cannot find the person who's having the same authority to contact. So whosoever is in front of us, we'll contact him.
So practically it can be done, but theoretically
Yes,
it is restricted,
it will
right?
not be. Yes.
Fine. Okay, now as stability of tenure we already discussed. Which principle is there which talks about the balance between the obligations or the duties and
Principle of
the
authority and
powers,
responsibility.
authority and responsibility? So just explain that principle a little bit.
Yes, sir. So you all advocated in the principle of authority and responsibility. Authority is basically the right when you have the right to give powers, the right to give orders to your subordinates, and responsibility is basically the obedience and the obligation you have to fulfill the authorities to fulfill the orders given to you. So basically, in an organization, there should be a parity and a mixture between authority and responsibility, because if the authority exceeds, then there will be a misuse of the authority, and if the responsibility is more, then it will lead to failure in achieving the organizational goal.
Good. Now just tell me, what do we mean by principle of remuneration?
Principle of remuneration states that the wages or the salaries which are being paid to the employees must be within the paying capacity of the firm or the organization, and they must be justified with their level of working, with the jobs they're holding or whichever work they're doing. It must be justifiable with them.
So these are the only two factors to consider the remuneration, the amount of remuneration, or some other factors are also considered.
Yes, sir, that the two employees who are working at the same level must have the same wage rate and the same salary without any discrimination.
No, I'm asking another thing. While deciding or while setting up a particular salary or remuneration of an employee, what factors do we consider?
So his skills, his capacities, what he
As
can
you,
do,
as you
the
said,
job
the
level, what
paying
he's
capacity of the
doing.
firm, you just already said paying capacity of the firm as one. Fine. And the skills, capability, qualities of the employee, you have just already said it. Any other factors that you will consider while setting a remuneration of an employee?
So regular, I guess, pay hikes or appraisals.
Like labor laws also you need to consider, that is government rules and regulations.
Yes, sir.
Minimum wage
Yes,
system
sir.
is there. Then the wages provided by the competitors in the same industry, that is also to be considered. Fine.
Right.
So similarly, few other points are also there that has to be considered while setting a fair remuneration of an employee. Fine. Okay, let
Okay.
us move further. Now I'm just using certain phrase is, and you have to identify the principle of management. And this will be this should be very quick. 1 unit, one
Okay.
boss.
Sorry.
1 unit, one
The
boss.
voice.
Identify the principle.
Unity of command.
Okay. 1 unit, one plan.
Unity of direction.
Okay. Thing for a place and place for a thing.
Order.
Principle
of order.
Okay. Specialization. Specialization is a consequence of one of the principle of management. Identify the principle.
Division of work.
Okay. There is one principle of management propounded by Henry Fayol, which is absolutely contradictory to one of the technique of management propounded by F.W. Taylor. Identify both.
The principle is unity of command, and it contradicts the technique of functional foremanship, because it says that there must be 8 bosses, like the clerks and the bosses, who must be given in charge of the subordinates. But in principle of unity of command, it states that there should be only one boss giving directions.
There is one principle of scientific management, that is cooperation, not individualism. You must have read about that. What
Yes,
do you
sir.
find, which principle of Henry Fayol is similar to this?
Principle of initiative.
Principle of initiative, cooperation, not individualism. Or you want to change your answer? Cooperation, not
There was,
individualism. Cooperation, not individualism is a principle of management propounded by F.W. Taylor. Which principle
yeah,
is similar to it propounded by Henry Fayol?
I'll go with principle of remuneration then. It's either of them. Either it's remuneration or it's initiative.
The correct answer is subordination of individual interest towards the general interest.
Okay.
That is one of the principles suggested by Henry Fayol, and cooperation, not individualism, is similar to that. Fine. Subordination of individual interest to the general interest. Okay. What do you find? What is the difference between delegation and decentralization?
So delegation is granting mere decision-making powers to the subordinates, to the lower level of management, dispersing them, granting them a proper combination between the authority, responsibility, and accountability. Whereas when we talk about decentralization, it is the ultimate outcome of when the delegation is followed in the systematic manner in an organization.
Can we say it in a brief nutshell? That is, delegation is sharing of authority, while decentralization is distribution of authorities.
Yes, sir.
Because delegation takes place between two.
Right.
Decentralization takes place between many. Fine. Okay. So as you let's come to your project. As you conducted your survey, your study part over the Pizza Hut, right?
Yes, sir.
So who is the owner of this organization?
Sir, he is the current president. His name is Micah Kohli.
Okay.
And the founder was Dan and Jack.
In which year it was founded?
Pizza Hut was founded on 31st May 1958.
1958. Okay. And how many branches are there in Delhi?
So there are many branches, but currently in Delhi they have 63 branches, and 4 are at work in progress.
How many branches you visited?
I have visited only one.
Only one, and there you just conducted the survey and collected the information.
Yes, sir.
So overall, you just answered all the questions nicely. Coming to the one last question. While preparation of this project, what difficulties you encountered?
So there were many difficulties, such as initially, though, they didn't let me conduct the survey or to talk to the manager or to talk to the workers, because they said that these are the working hours. So then we had to request them to please let us click the pictures and just fill the survey. Then some employees were not having the proper knowledge that what is the question, is it applied or not. So then we had to translate it in Hindi and then tell it to them in a brief manner. Then they said, okay, we'll do it. So these were the problems.
And how did you find this project work? Was it interesting or it was exhausting?
So it was interesting because when I came across this chapter of principles of management, I always had a curiosity to learn whether these principles are actually applicable in organization or it is just a bookish text given to us or a theoretical. So I wanted to find the practical implementation as well.
So that was all from my side. It was a fantastic
Thank you so much, sir.
presentation by your side. You attempted all
Thank
the
you, sir.
questions fantastically. You attempted all the questions confidently. You just answered each and every answer to the best of your knowledge. So, any question
Thank
from
you.
your side?
No, sir, I would just like to say that I came across your videos. I watched all of them and they were fantastic. ना आप जैसे mock viva वाला session लिया आपने, so it's like it's just fabulous. मतलब seriously, sir, thank you so much.
Always welcome and wish you the luck. I think tomorrow is your practical, right?
Yes, yes,
So
sir.
I
Yes,
wish
sir.
you all the very best. You will perform the
Thank you so much.
best. Okay. Thank you, dear.
Thank you, sir.